This episode is sponsored by Deep Tropics, an immersive dance experience in the heart of Music City, Nashville, where party truly meets purpose. Known as the most sustainable festival in North America, Deep Tropics is an energetic celebration of culture, community, and the planet. Catch headliners like Chris Lake, Lane 8, Subtronics, and more August 15th and 16th. Don't escape your reality, create it. Use the link in our show notes for tickets and details.
If you put forth your energy and your vibration to the world, and that's who and what you are, and you believe in that, then I say stand by that.
Ever wonder how top DJs actually built their careers?
I had to do 15 years of hard work to get any of the recognition that I wanted.
Where I saw a turning point in my career is when I became true to myself.
From marketing and mindset to networking and negotiation, I'm giving you the tools you need to build a lasting career in dance music.
Give them bits of you and your everyday life.
You have to change the way you view the word no. Like me, I'm encouraged by it.
Join me, Olivia Mancuso, and industry leaders as we reveal what it really takes to turn your passion into profit. This is Elevated Frequencies. Welcome to your weekly elevation, your dose of real strategies for real results in dance music. I'm Olivia, and today's conversation is with someone who's worked at the highest levels of the music industry before stepping into his own artistic spotlight. Damon DeGraff built his career managing some of the biggest names in music, from Mark Ronson to DJ Cassidy. He was instrumental in shaping what we now know as the celebrity DJ realm, working with artists who performed at Jay-Z's wedding and events for everyone from Oprah to presidents. But what makes this conversation so compelling is Damon's recent transition from behind-the-scenes powerhouse to artist in his own right. After decades of developing other people's careers, he's now pursuing his own creative vision with his project Paradise Suite. His perspective on work ethic versus talent, the vulnerability required to step into the spotlight, and what it really takes to sustain a career in music offers insights that only someone with his unique vantage point could provide. So let's dive in. I want to set the stage because you got your start in management. So for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about your background there.
I started a very long time ago. I was part of a management team that had D'Angelo and Mark Ronson. And this was very early Mark Ronson, before all of the Grammys and, all of the accolades and things that he's gone on to do. And we pretty much kind of shaped what at that time was the celebrity DJ realm. We were doing things for, from nightclubs to, I think we did probably one of the first deals in Vegas for an open format DJ. At times in Vegas was just starting to open up. We did things for fashion houses, for Gucci, for you name it. We kind of traveled the world doing that, right? And then I think from there, I kind of expanded my roster at that time. I had his sister Samantha. I had a DJ by the name of Beverly Bond. I had a DJ by the name of DJ Cassidy, and all kind of doing the same things, right? Doing everything from kind of fashion to celebrity. I mean, we did Jay-Z's wedding. We did 2 or 3 of J-Lo's weddings. We did things for Oprah, the president. We had really cultivated this energy of the go-to kind of sought after, I would call it like soundscaping DJs. So yeah, that's what started me in management.
Wow. That's a much different world than house music, than what the listeners of this show can even fathom, especially the money in that scene compared to what is available in house music today.
Yeah, it's funny because at that time, because we kind of set the tone for it, we had set the bar for kind of what the money was, right? Because you kind of didn't know what it was at that point. So I think based off of what we thought we were worth and based off of the people that we were dealing with and the clients that we were dealing with, but also the level of professionalism too, right? Because I always looked at it as in like, yes, we're DJs, but how do we present ourselves to where the client wants to work with you again because we are making X amount of money, right? You know what I mean? Like, so it's almost like, not like you have to be this good boy, but like anything, right? There's a level of professionalism which allows people to want to continue to work with you. So yeah, we were making at the time really amazing money. But I mean, house DJs make great money now too. I mean, they're making insane money if you're at that level, right? I think like anything else, even in that realm, then you had the $500 DJ. You know what I mean? Like you had the guy who might play for $250 and a couple of drinks for the night, right? I think it's all in how you kind of present it yourself and what you want it to be, in a sense. Because I would always tell guys when people would come to me, and I would be like, well, if you want to continue to be a $500 DJ, then that's that. But if you want to do something different, then sometimes you have to bluff and say no to that 500. But not everybody has or is or was fortunate enough to do that, because for some people, it's a job and they need the money, So, but yeah, it's good times. It's funny talking about those times because it seems like forever ago, and now I feel like the DJ world is just exploded,
Yeah, it is so different. And I want to talk about your artistry, but you said something about celebrity DJ, which I think now the term celebrity DJ is different than influencer DJ, but influencer DJ is the hot topic that has everybody so up in arms right now.
Right.
Because the notion is that, well, they get their opportunities because they posted on social media first. And that's kind of what launched their career, the stunts that they're doing for social, whatever. I'm curious, since you've worked with and kind of shaped what a celebrity DJ is, what is your take on the influencer DJ?
I it's funny because I get asked that question quite a bit. And I also see like everyone's got a take on like what something should or shouldn't be, right? I think then social media didn't exist. So, even for those DJs that I had mentioned, we were probably looked at in a certain way because you weren't real or you weren't doing the things that you should have been doing. But like any business, right? Like you evolve, right? And you move into spaces, you understand what the game is, you understand what clients are like looking for. I mean, what I could always say is with the guys, even though we were coined that name, with the DJs that I had represented at that time, they could play anywhere, right? So it wasn't just, oh, let me do a gimmick and let's go. I think the name was given because of what we were doing, the places we were playing, the clients that we were having. And then the clients at that time would want to like dress the girls or these things, or the DJ was now looked at as this figure. I think now where it is, I mean, that's just the world that we live in, unfortunately, right? You know what I mean? Like everything is somewhat of a gimmick. Everyone's trying to present themselves in a certain way on social media because you have to, and that's taking nothing away from the people who truly do it. But sometimes the people who are really great at DJing don't want to do the side that the people need to be or to gain the audience that likes what that person's doing. Right? You know what I mean? So I think every place kind of has, or every situation kind of has its place, in my opinion, and I have love for anybody that's figured out how to make their money and make their business work for them, right? Because not everyone has that skill set to create on TikTok, right? You know what I mean? Right. But I will say, to anyone that's listening in that space, yeah, do what you have to do. But I still think people should respect the craft and still like at least learn and put the effort in to make the work. You know what I mean? And to try to DJ and to try to do the things that allow for you to still kind of like compete and be, in that space and not just about the gimmick. But honestly, I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be successful. And it's like, I could sit here and nitpick a million things that the DJs don't do right. and that the TikTok DJs or the influencer DJs don't do right. Like everyone's always going to have something to say, right? I think the biggest thing for me is if you put forth your energy and your vibration to the world, and that's who and what you are, and you believe in that, then I say stand by that, So
Sure. I think the fear is that, well, because they exist, that means there's less room for me. And I vehemently disagree with that. I also think the more time you spend worrying about other people's careers and what they're doing and what's in their pockets, that's precious time away from developing your own.
And that's what haters are, right? Haters are going to sit there and talk and be mad all day about he did and she did. It's like, but what have you done to move you forward in a space to where you have the opportunities that anybody might be able to get? And look, it's not a fair world in terms of the cards that are dealt, right? But if you understand what it is and you can move your career forward in that way, or at least start to be consistent in what you're giving to the world, I don't care what that influence is doing. You know what I mean? Like, as I don't care what the DJ is doing if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, right? It's millions of people on this earth and in this world that it's like not everyone's going to like you, but not everyone's going to hate you either, right? So just got to put the work in. Because if it wasn't the influences, there'll be something else that will stop you or have somebody talking about, well, why I didn't have or why I didn't do. And it's just kind of like, well, what have you done?
Right. 100%. And the goal for so many artists is to have a team and have a manager. The thing is if you have that sort of mindset, that's the opposite of what you're looking for in a client to represent.
100%. Because honestly, and me and this friend of mine have this saying, and it's like, it's about the work, right? It's like, what are we doing? Like what work have you put in today to move you and your career forward, right? And if you don't do that, it's not just going to jump in your lap because you thought you should be in that position, right? I mean, think of how many people go to a concert or go to hear DJs play and say, I could do that. They're whack. But what have you done to put yourself closer to that position, right? As an artist, it's a very vulnerable space to be in, to share and to create and then give that to the world and then want people to like and accept it, no matter what you are, right? You know what I mean? Even to the influencer, like to create those things and do all of these things to bring people to like you is still an art, right? You know what I mean? Because there's some of the DJs and producers who are great producers who can't make content, right? And so it's like, what? Are we going to hate you because you can't really do that? Everybody has work to do and everybody has their position to play in their career for the things that they want for themselves. Not everybody wants the same things, So, but I'm not going to hate you because you want to blow bubbles when you DJ. Like, if that's your thing, then that's your thing. Like, it's cool. Great bubble, So,
yeah. So speaking of being vulnerable, I mean, you've stepped into this new chapter of your life as an artist. What was your mindset when you decided to kind of put yourself in the spotlight? And was that a consideration for you? Like, okay, I've coached my artists and been, to do all of these things, and now I kind of have to walk the walk?
And I think speaking back to everyone's journey is their journey and it's their road, right? So I've always have been a creative. I've always been in music since I was a child, right? From Bermuda originally. My grandmother was like one of the premier piano teachers on like the island. I played piano. I played in the school band. Like my mother and dad's side both were very musical, right? I grew up in like the church. So, we had, obviously, you sang in choirs and there's harmonies, a lot of rich, soulful music comes from gospel and comes from the church, right? When you even look at a lot of the great premier singers and, producers, they've come out of the church. So for me, it was just always a part of my life. I think when I started, I just wanted to be in music. So I didn't really know at what capacity, right? I went to school to be an engineer. I got in there. I realized that I didn't really want to be an engineer. The business side, I think, attracted me more. I fell into the business side of things, and then my career kind of went and it took off, right? But I think being around it for so long, and also growing up in Bermuda, I had like a sound system when I was growing up because DJ, like, sound system culture coming out of Jamaica, that's big in like the islands. So we're like clashing all the friends, so it's just always been something that has been in me. It was just dormant in a sense. And maybe it was because I wasn't ready to be that vulnerable yet within my life, right? So I figured, well, if I'm behind, it allows me to still like be this creative manager and do these kind of things where I still can kind of dip my toe in and out of it and still contribute from that standpoint, but I don't have to be front facing, right? And I would, it's funny because I would always end up like DJing. Like, I was managing this artist, Kat DeLuna, at one point. And, she was touring like Europe and all the other things. And like, I was her DJ, but I was also her manager, right? You know what I mean? Because I was still kind of getting my fix. We're playing for like, 7,500 people or 10,000 people. And then, I broke out where I had a little 15-minute set between her changeover, right? So it was like little cool things where I was always kind of like flirting with the idea of it. But the management side, I think it's something that I've always loved and I still love because I still do manage too, right? I kind of wear these two hats. But I think stepping into that, I just felt like I was at a point where I had gone through this real like growth stage within my life to where, I was kind of developing and kind of transitioning into this form of like manhood and truly like understanding myself. And I think in the understanding of myself, I was kind of like, hey, like, I can't live for anybody else at this point in my life, right? I think part of those things, those boxes that we close are these things that either we're thinking about the haters, we're thinking about our parents, we're thinking about what whoever might say that stops us from doing and being. And it just came to a point where I was like, honestly, I just want to release some music and I just want to give some vibration to the world. And I just want to kind of let people like feel me and my energy because I've lived for so much. I've gone to so much places. I've given so much energy to other people. It was time that I had to give something to myself, right? I felt I owed myself that. And I was like, look, it could work. It could not work. I don't really care, right? Because it's coming from a very pure and genuine place within my life. And who's going to like it is going to like it. And that's who I'm going to ride with. And that's how it came about. I was just like, it's time for me to give to me. And it feels incredible.
Wow. That's a really cool story. Are you happy that you took this route, that you did the management first to prep you for this moment? Or is it something that you wish you would have done sooner?
No, I mean, look, I think part of that journey, right, spiritually, because I feel like everything is at its time and in its time, right? So I might have tried to do this previously and I might not have been in the position to even grasp the opportunities or have the vibration to give to the world within that way, right? And I might have either squandered it or it might not just have been for me. I think being able to be in management, it like gives me an understanding of how to understand just how the business works in general, right? It's obviously allowed me to have really amazing relationships. and just how to kind of navigate a little bit differently, right? I think for some artists, it's probably a little harder having to navigate, let's say, on their own, or having to navigate, let's say with a manager, because I tell artists sometimes you don't even really need a manager at this point because you have nothing to truly manage, right? But the concept of the business is so ingrained in what we think it should be, then you think someone else is supposed to be doing something for you at a point when that's a lot of self-development, and that's a lot of you really understanding kind of who and what you are, right? So that's why I think I love the way that things kind of set up, because I feel like now I understand my position a lot more within my life and in what I'm giving to the world.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that as well, that I don't have any regrets about timelines because everything is kind of preparing you for the moment, and you never know. People try to rush things, and it's like you're robbing yourself of like amazing life experiences that is going to make that next step so much more enriched.
I tell guys that all the time. It's like, yes, everybody wants the success, right? But I tell guys, if you've never had I slept on someone's couch story, you're probably not going to make it, right? You know what I mean? Like, because it's something about that really builds character and this tough skin of understanding how bad you even really want it. Because a lot of people like the idea of something, right? And the idea of something's grand. You went and you saw, Black Coffee at Madison Square Garden. You're like, oh my God, I want to be an Afro House DJ, right? So you go home and you're moving and you think that that's what it is, but you don't know that Black Coffee was doing that for X amount of years to still get to this point in his career. People just see the tip, right? You know what I mean? Like they don't see the hardship and everything else that's been rooted foundationally to bring you to this point. So when it is time for that thing to truly be what it is, then it's like it's gone. And that's why I like to think it's already written, right? It's just how do we want to put the work in to continue that? Like I saw Seth Rogen did a podcast, and it was a clip that was on Instagram, but it's something that always sticks with me. And he said, everybody would make it if they stick to it.
I saw that.
Not everybody wants to stick to it, right? And that goes back to how bad do you really want something that you're willing to risk things, you're willing to not go out, you're willing to not have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or you're willing to whatever are these things that your friends are in Ibiza for the summer partying, but you got to make beats and you got to do these things that you have to do to perfect your thing. That's sacrifice. And not everybody really wants to do that. So when it gets hard, then what do? Oh, I don't know if I want to do this, or, oh, I can't function, or, oh, this isn't for like me. And then you give up. But the person who was persistent, who stayed their path, who continued to put the energy. And I mean, this isn't even just, I feel, to artistry. I feel like this is life, right? Like these are real like life lessons, as in like, what are we continuing to do and how are we continuing to show up for ourselves every day?
Right. Right. And this kind of makes me think about that influencer conversation, because it's like, do you really want that? Do you want to skip all the steps and shoot straight to the top? And then when you're there, the pressure to maintain that position becomes so intense, and you don't have this mountain of knowledge and experience to draw from to help you when that pressure is put on you. And so, I mean, it's such a cliche, but like there's such a beauty in the journey. Like you're supposed to enjoy the journey more than the destination, and it's all true.
It's true. Like I remember, and I mean, I like geek out of this. I had a very old SoundCloud, right, that I used. I don't even know what I used it for. I think it's when I was on I had a radio show on like Miss Lily's radio a few years ago. It's epic. I loved it. And so I had this like SoundCloud, but I had like 12 followers on SoundCloud, right? You know? And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to put like an edit out, right? And just started putting out like little edits. Cause again, for me, it's the journey. Like I love to build. I love to create, right? Like that to me is like foundation. Like when it's up and it's sailing, it's kind of boring, right? Because at that point, it's just maintenance, right? Like I love to get dirty and really get my hands in it and really build it. And so I had like 12 followers, right? And I was like, all right, cool, great, you know? And now I have like maybe like 1,200 or 1,300. And to me, that's so awesome, right? Now look, it's not 100,000, but I don't care because it's the build. And like we said, it's the journey of there's another 1,100 people that have now bought into the energy that I'm giving to the world, right? You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's
you earned every one of them.
100%.
And I think we get so like, we think that, 1,200 followers is not a lot. Imagine 1,200 people in one room. You know, we get so disillusioned by social media and what actual influence is.
Right.
And that's just really crazy, because if you put all those people in one room, that would be a lot of people.
That's like a nice vibe, right? Or if 1,200 people bought something for $10, like that's how, and I think that's the build. And I think that's like, that's what I love, right? You know, like I love seeing growth. I love seeing like as you're starting to kind of connect dots in certain ways and you start to see people like, yo, I like really love this. But then you're seeing like repeat people coming back, right? You know what I mean? Like, and those things really matter because that's the foundation. Like, I don't want any, because of what I've done or because of what I do as a manager, right? Like, I don't want any of those things to really get in the way of what I'm doing in this, because it's like two separate things, right? Like, I don't want any favors by it. You know, like I want to say, I want to earn the energy that I'm giving to the world, right? And
Sure.
so that 1,200 for me is epic.
From 12 to 1,200, I mean, really, I don't think that a lot of artists celebrate. I think you have a different perspective, but a lot of artists who are just starting out don't celebrate those milestones enough because they're in constant competition, you know, with their peers who they see might have 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever
Right.
it is. And celebrating those wins is so important just for your mental health. Do you take your own advice that you give to artists? Do you apply it to your own artistry, or do you struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't struggle with that, right? Because I think my journey is my journey, right? And as I said earlier, like being in this space within my life now has been my own kind of mental and spiritual journey to get to this point, to even feel that I'm in a place to even want to give to the world within that way, right? You know, if this was previous, let's say before I've done therapy or before I've been in whatever, then yeah, I probably would have been freaking out. Just 1,200, you know, like, or the single only did this, right? You know, but I just look at it, I think as we said too, like, I want the people who resonate and vibe with me to be with me, right? Because that's the journey, right? And so if it's 1,200, if it's 100,000, if it's 100 million, if that's where we are, then that's where we are at that point. And I think I mean, obviously I look at what's going on in the world, but like, I don't have the time to want to think about what anybody else is doing in their success. Like, I'm happy they have that success, right? You know? So for me to say, man, he got 500,000 on that single and I only got 10,000. It goes back to the work, right? What's the work you have to do to move the needle to push what you're doing forward? If I'm thinking about your 500,000 that's wasted time out of my life to get me closer to 500,000. Like, so yeah, I don't really pay attention to the numbers or the accolades of people because, as I said, in this new place within my life is I want happiness and success for everyone, right? Especially for my friends. But I just think, the more successful the people are within the genres or in whatever, or people pushing sound, that makes it better for everybody else within the space too to create, right? That's how I see it over why the fuck he do that or how he make that record or that record's whack. It shouldn't have got all that. That's none of my business. You know what I mean? Like, what's that doing for me?
I love the concept of, other artists, other creatives are your colleagues, not your competition. And their success means that there's an appetite for what you're creating. I just posted a video about that because, the term oversaturation, especially now in a genre like Afro House, which opens up a whole can of worms with how it's been commandeered by certain populations and just, kind of just really muddied the waters on what, where the genre comes from and what it should be. I think people who are worried about that, it's like you're either not creating for the right reasons,
right?
You're just trying to jump on a trend, or you don't believe in your art enough. So the concept of, colleagues over competition is, I really love that.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, there should be more of that. Like I just feel like, why should I hate on you? Like your fans still might not like me, right? So I'm gonna hate you because you have more friends, but I should be like, bro, that shit's dope. Like we should collab, or we should try to do something together to make it bigger and better, or do whatever, or just keep building because it's like, what's mine is gonna be mine.
Yeah. How do you recommend? I know you said you did therapy. Not everyone has. How do you recommend artists cultivate that inner peace to where they can just focus on themselves and put the blinders on to all that other stuff?
I would say therapy. I'm a huge therapy advocate, by the way. I just think it's changed my life completely. But look, not everyone has the means or wants to seek that, right? Because I think therapy, if done correctly, it does strip you down to a place that could be a little dark for some people, right? And it builds you back up in that way, but it gives you the tools to truly understand yourself. And so I think for me, my greatest asset to myself is the self-awareness that I have of who I am and how I'm presenting in every situation. Now, look, I'm not a saint, and I'm not saying that I don't have these thoughts or things that might go through my head that could be triggering to me by all means. But I think in having the understanding of who I am allows me to reshape myself, right? You know what I mean? And to kind of bring me back to center to truly understand who I am and why I'm here and kind of what I'm doing and what I shouldn't be doing. So I would say, however you can get to your center of truly understanding who you are, because I think most things are driven by ego, right? And so the ego allows for various things to be triggered from childhood or from whatever are our traumas that have come within and through our lives. So when we get to certain situations, of course, you're going to project to an artist or to friends or to whoever because you didn't like that or because this is whatever or that was whack or he's this or she's that. And it's just like, why? Because they figured something out for themselves? Like, no, like that should be praised. You know what I mean? Like, but I think I really think it's the understanding of oneself and truly getting to the center and really losing ego. And I feel like ego and confidence are two different things, right? Because I think as an artist, yes, you have to have that swag. You have to kind of move in whatever that is for you. But I think the ego is often what blinds us from ourselves and really how we move forward and how we interact with our peers and how we interact, honestly, with people in general, you know?
Yeah, I think it's important to lead by example too. I talk about this on the show a lot. I started my podcast in the summer of 2023, and there's still very few house music focused podcasts out there. But the ones that have been around for a while, those podcasters like embraced me, welcomed me with open arms, and said, "Love what you're doing, here to help. Let me know if you ever need any advice or pointers." And that was so disarming and so incredible to see, because in the content creator space, it can be very competitive as well, very similar to
Right.
DJing. And those people have since become my friends. We've collaborated on different things. And now I feel the need, having this show for 2 years. And by the way, I came from the TV news world where it was ruthless, cutthroat, horrible,
Right.
like plotting, scheming. So to step into this new space and have it be so welcoming, I realized, okay, this is something now I have to do. If there's someone else who wants to do a podcast, make content, whatever, I have to be that olive branch. And I think that that's such a powerful, simple thing that is often also overlooked, because we can be so focused and, I have tunnel vision on what we need to accomplish that we forget that community is, of course, what it's all about in this scene.
But we have to lead with love, right? And again, like, look at how simple that was to bring you in, and then them leading by example, then you're leading by example too, and how you want to pass on that baton, because that takes nothing from you, right? Because
Right.
what's written for you is written for you. And it empowers you. It empowers you truly to be able to give knowledge and give understanding to someone else that needs that, because majority of people aren't, right? And they're just like, no, that's all about me. And I'm like, but you can't have it all in that way, right? Share some knowledge, share some understanding. That empowers you even more, because look, like from my management days, like I have guys that started with me as interns who are now running their own big major management companies, where people are asking me to connect them with them for jobs. Like, you know how that makes me feel? Like, that's beautiful, right? Because that means that I've done something right in my being to allow somebody to be safe and to not be ego driven and be like, no, well, it's all mine. And it's like, no, right? Like, if someone gave me a chance, I want to give you a chance as you will give somebody else a chance. But that's, again, putting your ego to the side and allowing yourself to move through in pace, to know that what is for me will be for me. That can't be taken from you,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful, simple concept. Before we wrap up, tell me, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished this year?
It's a couple of things. I'm actually super. This could be considered big or small. Don't know. But my first two records have hit over 100,000 streams on
Amazing.
Spotify, which is awesome, right? Like for me, I'm like, look, these aren't Drake numbers, right? But hey, I'll take it, right? As we talk about we're building. And then I started, which is just where I am within my life right now, from, coming from the islands and then all of the places that I've traveled within the world, and my level of taste and understanding. I started a brand called the Paradise Suite, which encompasses kind of like music, lifestyle, merchandising, all of these other things, which is kind of like my new property and venture that I'm kind of creating and putting all of these things underneath, right? And for me, when we speak about the community, it's still like building within that, right? Like, who are the people? What's the tribe that believes in what this is? Because the music that I'm putting out into the space, yeah, it's Afro house, but it does have the elements of the Caribbean and these things in it, because that's truly what I represent, right? So I think for me, it's, trying to just put my angle and my twist on what that is. I think going back to what you said earlier, where, there's a lot of talk about, the authenticity of what Afro House is and how, the genre is transforming and the commercialism of it and all these other things. And I mean, again, everyone's always got something to say, right? You know what I mean? And I think it's always the people who aren't even truly active in it, right? You know what I mean? That have something to want to say. I mean, look, I think with any genre, you can look at it and there's a core and a foundation for how it started, but everything evolves at some point, right? You know what I mean? And someone's going to pull from this element of it and put their twist to it, and their tribe is going to like it. It's taken nothing from the origin of what it is, right? Because the origin is still being created. You still have Timba, you still have, Shimza Black Hole, like you still have all of the guys making that. You still have Amapiano, you still have Afro Tat, like it's still thriving in its space. But because kind of music is having success too, is that bad? Right? You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I feel people who, it's almost like, I forget who it was, but it was like the white reggae band from, I think they were from LA, but they won the Grammy for Best Reggae, right? A few years ago.
Tribal Seeds or Revolution or something.
One of those, right? And look, the Grammys are what they are, right? I mean, everyone's got something to say about that too. But people pull inspiration from various things in various places and put their vibe and their energy on it. Is it wrong? No, right? Art imitates art. Everything is pulled from some genre or some style or some cut in 1975 or some Latin track or something. Everything is pulled from a place. So it's kind of like, again, are we going to sit here and fight because people have had success? Or are you going to continue to try and create the things based off of what's happening in the world because you want to understand, or you do understand? And here's the vibe that I want to give to the world because that's my vibe and my energy. Because I don't want to be any of those guys. I don't want to be kind of music. I don't want to be Black Coffee. I don't want to be Shimza. I don't want to be none of them. I respect them all for what they're doing and what they're giving to the world. But I think what is going to be Damon DeGraff is going to be Damon DeGraff, right? And however that flows and that moves, again, that's my story and that's how that was written, right? And so, yeah, that's how I kind of view it. And I'm excited about kind of where I am with it. I'm excited about the vibes that I'm giving to like the world. And I'm excited that, 100,000 people plus want to listen to my music. That's fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It
is. It is. That's wow. I'm really glad we ended with that. I think that's something that a lot of people need to hear, and even a perspective that I haven't heard yet. So thank you for that. And congratulations on the 100,000 streams. By the time this is released in a couple weeks, I'm sure it will have even gone up. And I'm excited to see what else you do.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you for having me. Good chat. I feel like we covered a nice round of things. So I love good conversation like that. So thank you.
That is your weekly elevation. What strikes me most about Damon's journey is his understanding that everything happens in its right time. His years of management weren't just preparation for his artistic career, they were essential to who he is as a creator today. His perspective on outworking talent rather than relying on natural gifts alone is particularly powerful. In an industry where everyone's looking for shortcuts, Damon's commitment to putting in the work day after day, year after year, offers a blueprint for sustainable everyone's success. Remember, success in dance music isn't about luck, it's about strategy. I'll talk to you next week.